Good afternoon, everyone. Commencing at midnight tonight, SAPOL will be launching Operation High Impact Fatal 5. That operation will run from the 1st of October and conclude on the 31st of October at midnight. In conjunction with Operation High Impact Fatal 5, we'll be running a number of operations embedded in that 4-week operation, one of which will be Operation Safe Long Weekend. That'll commence at midnight tomorrow night and that'll conclude at midnight on Monday night. The focus of the operations during October will be what we call the Fatal 5, and that is the biggest causes of lives lost and serious injury crashes on our roads in South Australia. We also know that in the month of October, it is one of the most dangerous 2 months on our roads during the 12-month period. Fatal 5 will be focusing on drink and drug driving, speeding, seatbelts, distraction and dangerous road users. Last 5 years on the October long weekend, there have been 8 lives lost on South Australian roads and there have been 48 people seriously injured as a result of crashes. I don't have to stand here and tell you the catastrophic effect that a serious injury or a life loss can have on families, on work colleagues, on communities. So South Australia Police are pleading with everybody to please play your part, be responsible. As I said, a number of these deaths over the last 5 years have occurred in regional South Australia, 5 of the 8. So if you're exiting the city, make sure you take the appropriate breaks, make sure that you are driving to the conditions, be patient. And we want everybody to enjoy the long weekend. It's likely that there will be heavy traffic in regional South Australia given the restrictions in the current environment, but we want everybody to play their part, be responsible and come home safely.
There was another serious crash early this morning. Can you tell us a bit about that, please?
I can tell you that a motorcycle at about 6 a.m. on the Old Princess Highway at Murray Bridge collided with a vehicle towing a horsefly, and I can tell you that that motorcyclist has life-threatening injuries.
What does it look like happened there? Did you just not see them coming on it?
I haven't spoken to the investigators at this point in time.
What's your reaction that, the guy is fighting for his life in hospital at the moment after a crash like that?
I guess that's the thing with lives lost and serious injury crashes. It's not just a number, it's somebody's brother, it's somebody's husband, it's somebody's loved one. And people that survive with serious injuries, they can have catastrophic changes to their lives. So again, I'm pleading with people. The majority of lives lost and serious injury crashes on our roads are avoidable. Please take the message seriously and play your part and make sure, as a state, all South Australians and road users in South Australia come home safely.
You were saying that because of COVID, people are holidaying more in South Australia, so that means there'll be more traffic on the roads. How much more of a risk will that leave this long weekend possibly?
Look, I anticipate there will be heavy road use in regional areas, and obviously the more people that are using the road network, the more risk is associated with that. So again, the message is just play your part and make sure you get home safely.
Are there any roads in particular around South Australia that could be considered high risk or perhaps will be more heavily trafficked over this long weekend?
Look, a lot of our major regional roads are historically over 5 years where most of our fatalities and serious injuries occur, but police will have resources where they need to be, when they need to be there based on our intelligence.
How shocking is it for police and other emergency services to attend, crashes like the one this morning?
It's horrific for anybody that's involved, whether it's attending emergency services or whether it's treating physicians, to the people that assist in the long-term recovery when people survive.
Why is the October long weekend one of the worst?
Sorry?
Why is the October long weekend one of the worst?
Our evidence tells us over 5 years, October as a month is one of the 2 worst months of the year on South Australian roads. And it's probably because you've got the long weekend, you've got school holidays embedded in that, and there's a lot of people that use our road network. And as I said to you, of the 8 lives lost over the last 5 years, 5 of those have occurred in regional South Australia, which is not unusual because generally around 70% of all our fatalities or lives lost occur in regional South Australia each year, which is extremely disappointing.
So will you be having more, breath testing, or what resources are you putting out there to make sure that there's, no more fatalities?
There'll be a whole range of assets that we'll be using. As I said, it'll be a highly visible enforcement-based campaign, but we will have all sorts of resources. We'll have cameras, we'll have plane cars, we'll have all sorts of resources to get the best road safety outcomes that we possibly can.
Out of the fatal five, is there any one in particular that you think could be the worst or that contributes to crashes the most?
Yeah, I can tell you unequivocally that distraction over the last 5 years is the biggest contributor to lives lost in serious injury crashes. And that's not necessarily mobile phone use. People associate distraction with mobile phone use. It's not always mobile phone use. It's anything that distracts you from the complex task of driving.
You mentioned 2 months are the worst. October's one. What's the other?
The other's April.
There was also a crash at Northfield. Are you able to tell us about that?
I'm unaware of that.
Okay, a car flipped on, there was a crash at an intersection and the car ended up on its roof. A couple of people were taken to hospital but no one was seriously injured. Taking that into account and also the one near Murray Bridge, how do you feel moving into the blitz now and your message for people?
My message for people is play your part, work with us and come home safely. Enjoy the long weekend, enjoy the downtime, enjoy the time with your families, but most importantly come home safe.
Is it disappointing to see these two crashes happen in one day within hours of each other?
It's always disappointing to see people that are involved in vehicle collisions.
I do also want to ask you about trail riding in the northern suburbs. Some community members say that it's a big issue. What's SAPOL doing to crack down on it? These are like motorised bicycles and go-karts and that sort of thing.
Look, it's part of our general policing right across SAPOL. From time to time there are issues with trail bikes and various other vehicles being ridden inappropriately on roads and through reserves, etc. What I would say to people there is, if you can give SAPOL any description of the riders, any identifying marks, if you can understand anything that makes the bike stand out, any information you can give to SAPOL will help us take action against those people.
Do you think, they obviously don't have number plates, which would be an easily identifiable thing. It's obviously quite difficult to catch these people, is it not, with nothing like a number plate to pin them down?
It's not just, it is difficult, and it's not just because they don't have number plates. I mean, clearly if you're riding any vehicle on a road, you have to have it registered and insured and you have to have a number plate. But the other issue with policing this is that they're vulnerable road users and we have to be very careful how we interact with them.
What do you mean, so they're hard to catch kind of thing?
It means we have to be very careful about how we bring their behaviour to a conclusion without any bad outcomes for anybody.
So you're not able to chase them? Could you elaborate on that?
I'm not going to go into it any further.
Or do you mean that it's dangerous for your officers to chase them, or?
It's dangerous for everybody concerned. As I said, being a motorcyclist, you are a vulnerable road user, so we have to be very considered in how we respond.
This is in parks and stuff like that.
That's right.
Would you consider giving them expiation notices for that sort of behaviour?
Most definitely. Not necessarily expiation notices, they may well find themselves facing the courts.
Are motorbike fatalities overrepresented, do you see, compared to road fatality?
To be honest with you, the number of people that die on motorcycles over a 12-month period is relatively low. They are overrepresented in terms of the male demographic. They're overrepresented in terms of the number of registered motorcycles on the road, and they are overrepresented in serious injury crashes as well. So as I said, they are a vulnerable road user, and generally if you fall off a motorcycle, you can have a bad outcome.
Will SAPOL look at increasing patrols in parks and that sort of thing in regards to these hoon riders?
SAPOL do it routinely. We gather our intelligence, we know where these people are congregating, we know a lot about them, a lot more than they think we know, and we take positive action to enforce them.
Is it getting worse?
I don't believe it's getting worse, but I believe that there's a small cohort of people that don't want to modify their behaviour and do the right thing by their communities.
So there's two separate operations, is that correct? One goes for about a month, the other one just this weekend?
So there's Operation High Impact Fatal 5, that'll go for the month of October, and as I said, embedded in that there'll be a number of operations. Operation Safe Long Weekend will be one of those operations.
Can you elaborate on the others at all?
There'll be operations when people return to school and various other things that we will certainly convey to the community as those operations bloom.
So Operation Fatal Fire, we're focusing on the driving, the Operation Long Weekend one, the other one you were talking about. What was that?
There will be a focus on the Fatal 5 as well. The Operation High Impact Fatal 5 will run through the whole month, and the Operation Safe Long Weekend will run during the period of the long weekend. But be under no illusion that SOPOL will take enforcement action against you any time of the day, any time of the night, any time of the year if you are blatantly committing offences within the Fatal 5 category, because they lead to the worst outcomes on our roads, tragically.
How much is unsafe overtaking a factor in crashes in rural areas?
It is a factor. Obviously, the more speed that you're doing, the more complex the driving is. A lot of people don't have a lot of experience in regional driving. Having said that, a big percentage of people that die in regional areas actually live in the areas in which they die. So it's like anything. The risk is increased with the speed, when the speed's increased. And it's just a matter of just being responsible, driving within your limits, being well rested, and just being patient.
That's it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank